Well, hello and welcome to the Giant Crit Crushers Criterium series. We are in week 1 of 4 weeks and we've got a lot of very exciting action planned over the next 4 installments. I'm Catherine Bates and tonight I'm joined in commentary by the one and only Carly Taylor. Carly, we've got an exciting format out there tonight. We've got 2 races. The first one just 6.4 kilometres, the second one 9.3 kilometres. It's all based on points. Talk us through the concept. We're having a little few technical issues, but Carly will be back with us shortly. So on the start line tonight, we'll have over 200 women, 213 women, in fact, in the first race. And we will be focusing on the women tonight. There's over 1,000 men lined up, which is unreal to see so many people participating and getting out and about. So the race is run over 2 different races, a shorter one to start, but there's also a couple of kilometres of lead-in, so about 10 kilometres in total, the course being the same for the men and the women, just 1 lap. So we start off in Paris and we are racing along the Champs-Élysées. And we've got Carly back. Carly, welcome back. We've been missing you here. We're just talking about this incredible Crit Crusher series that is about to start, the 2 different races, and we were hoping you could talk us through the concept.
Yeah, sorry, clearly Wi-Fi is just coming to Adelaide. But yeah, it's really an exciting series that we're about to start. It's actually a new concept that we haven't tried before, with the back-to-back racing and both races accumulating the points. So the riders will have a short little break in between both. And yeah, definitely, I think, going to be some exciting couple of weeks ahead.
So it's based on points. First to 20th gets points, so 20 points for the winner, down to 1 point for 20th place. It's kind of like an omnium. I mean, it's really important to push all the way to that finish line, because even if you think you're off the podium and you sit up and 5 people pass you, you lose a whole lot of points. When you've been Zwifting, have you been thinking about just how difficult it is to stay vigilant? Do you think the riders will be really paying attention to that final dell, or do you think it might be an opportunity for people to get a few sneaky points on the line?
I think it's definitely going to help those that do a fair bit of Swift racing, because yeah, you probably tend to go pretty hard when you're in a race, and the ability to back up and not have much rest and do that again. Those that have that fitness and Swift fitness as well are going to benefit from that. And I think we're going to see a lot of those races that do a lot of the Swift races involved in this series. And I know a lot of the Giant and Live ambassadors are also being involved. So definitely those that do a bit more of this type of style of racing might benefit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see those tactics come into place, especially with such a new concept that we've got going over this month.
Well, it is not all serious business. There's room for a little bit of fun as well. So while the riders are finishing their warm-ups until we get going, let's take a look at the preparation that Lee Turner and Alison McCormack, our fabulous Giant ambassadors in Melbourne, how their preparation went.
Oh, Rabobank. Onsay. I do like Onsay. Oh, I don't know. Al! Al!
Yeah, what's up?
I don't know what to wear. T-Mobile or CCC? Which one?
Well, you're going to be riding indoors.
Al, it doesn't matter. I've got to look good. It doesn't matter where I am. I could be on the moon. I've got to look good.
All right, fair enough. How about that one?
Greg.
Yeah.
CCC. I'm going to be just like Greg.
All right, hey, I'm going to go and train.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to be like Greg. 36, 37. Woohoo!
Oh, Jesus, it's hot in here. What are you up to now?
It's 34 in Paris today. It's hot.
Whatever, I'm going to go and train. You know, Lee, your time might be better spent doing the training program.
What training program?
Imagine being part of that household. It looks like they have a little bit of fun along the way, Carly.
Yeah, and I think one of them might have had a little bit more better preparation than the other. I'm not saying what preparation I would rather, but I do like a good workout on Swift, and the Crit Crushers training plan does have some pretty awesome workouts in there. So, yeah, I think Alison might have a little bit of an advantage coming into today's first race.
It does pay to be prepared. Today's race, Carly, we can expect the riders with a good burst of power to come to the fore. And there's some of our ladies have sprinting, the 15-second max average powers up over 15 watts per kilo. It's just mind-boggling, and it's incredible. And I think there'll be a few of those 213 women that are here looking for a result. And I equally think they'll be some of those women who are a little bit intimidated by some of those numbers. We're not far off the start of this fabulous race one for the Women's Crit Crusher Series tonight, and it's fabulous to have Giant on board bringing this to us. This Zwift racing, it's pretty new to the women's peloton, Carly, but they're really picking it up, and it's getting incredibly professional and very competitive.
Yeah, it's awesome seeing so many women. I think it's almost up to around 250 racing in race one now. And a lot of the NRS, but also our community racing teams, the Aussie Hump Day women's group, they also have about 25 racing tonight across all the grades. So not just about the women in A grade, but the women across all the grades, all 4 grades tonight. It's awesome to see so many taking part and supporting it. But yeah, definitely. I think there's a few tactics that would help coming into this race. You talk about the 15-second power, but with such a short circuit too, with only 10 kilometres on the Champs-Élysées, getting in that starting pen as well and getting a good warm-up definitely I think is pretty important, because with 200 people in the starting pen, you don't really want to be at the back because 10 kilometres isn't much to move up.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, you've felt the nerves of the neutral zone in a race. And in fact, we've seen a lot of these women race up the Champs-Élysées, of course, at La Course by Le Tour de France. But the riders are in the start pen, so it is all nerves on for the bunch. They are now rolling out along the Place de la Concorde, and they will head up to that start-finish line near the Champs-Élysées. And Carly, that will be their one opportunity to get a power up.
Yeah, this is the lead in, but it's very much full gas from the start and part of the race. So definitely this is the part where if you kind of go too hard too early, you're probably going to hurt a bit and blow up on the harder part up to the Arc de Triomphe. But yeah, awesome to see so many of the women here. And I think we're looking at Bree Wilson at the moment, which is a rider from Rotsalt Attacker and a very strong Swifter who actually won the SRAM Send It series last year in the Australian racing. So a very strong Swift racer, and looks like as if she's gone out quite well.
Yeah, Bree Wilson is definitely one to watch. She's one of the riders that has quite an explosive 5 and 15-second kick about her. Interesting, though, a few gaps are opening up in front, and Bree will definitely want to make sure that she has the right wheel to follow, because when you drop that wheel even a tiny bit, an elastic band effect really comes into play, and you have to work a heck of a lot harder just to hold that wheel. Stephanie Corset we're seeing there as well, and Stephanie, her 15-second average power is over 15 watts. Her mother was a very, very highly ranked international female women's cyclist, Ruth. Shout out to Ruth. I'm sure she'll be watching. And Stephanie is one of Australia's most promising juniors, so great to see her out there.
Yeah, she had a pretty good nationals at the start of the year in Ballarat, and I think proven that she's one of the riders that can do quite well on the flat. I think it shows my age in the fact that Ruth was actually one of my teammates once, so crazy to think that now her daughter is up there and throwing down the watts, but awesome to see her kids getting a part of it.
Yeah, we don't need to go talking about age now, Carly. So they only have 34 metres of elevation as they loop around Paris today. So we wouldn't exactly say that there is any climbing, but as we can see them go under the tunnel here, and they will do this leading into the absolute finale after they've gone through that start finish in the 6.6 kilometre lap. These tiny little lumps, it goes up to 7%. They're short, but they'll definitely hurt the legs, and the riders need to be extra vigilant.
Yeah, for sure. It's also their one and only opportunity to get a look at that finish line before doing it for the final and sprinting for a place. So those riders that haven't done this circuit before, as we're seeing Peter Mullins at the moment, and it looks like she's doing a bit of babysitting with the little child on there, giving her some instructions, I guess, on where to use her power up.
Oh, well, and Bluey can help a little bit there. It's great to see Peter. But you can also see on her body language something that we can't necessarily see on the avatars. She's already working. She might have a smile on her face, but they're certainly putting the power into the pedals as they posture and position as they head up to the start finish line. It is a 3 kilometre lead in. We've travelled 2.2 kilometres so far. Once they get the virtual gun, it is 6.6 kilometres of racing. It is one lap around that Champs-Élysées up through the Arc de Triomphe, and then finally around the Place de la Concorde before they head up for a sprint finish. We've seen the sprinters really enjoy this course, and I don't see why today will be any different. Attacks will have a terribly difficult time trying to stay away.
Yeah, and I guess also the cobbles on the Champs-Élysées, you don't really realise how hard it is, but bike choice and wheel choice also make a difference here. And those that have spent some drop points and tried to upgrade their bikes might get a bit of an advantage, especially with wheels, because I'm pretty sure most of them will be riding the Liv or the Giant. So yeah, it's awesome to see so many of those rock salt attacker ladies though supporting this. I think almost the whole team is with Peter just there amongst it, or Justine Barrow, I think it might be.
And Justine Barrow's also had some fabulous results in the Zwift world, and this year has certainly forced a lot of them onto the trainer and into virtual racing as they're not able to race out on the road. And gee, it's a fantastic spectacle to see them. It does suit slightly different riders, Carly. We were talking about how Peter Mullins can win any crit she starts on the road, but in the Zwift world, well, I tell you what, those watt bombs get dropped, and sometimes the more sprint inclined cyclists get a bit of an advantage. We've got some big riders from the junior ranks coming up. Frankie Sewell, the Queenslander, she's just come out of the junior ranks, and she's in there. They're still posturing very much as they come up towards this start finish line, but it will pay to be right up the front. But you do, Carly, you really need to kind of save your energy, don't you? Because you don't want to go too hard too early. 6.6 kilometres may seem short, but it's certainly not a sprint the entire way.
Yeah, we're actually just seeing Frankie Sewell making a bit of a move up to that final rise where she would turn for the Arc de Triomphe. She does have Justine Barrow in that front group too. So I'm wondering if she was trying to almost set it up for Justine, because probably Justine's not the most notable sprinter. And just on cue, it does look like Justine's gone over the top of Frankie and got a little bit of a gap on that small front group. So Justine riding, I guess, to her strength. She's a really strong hill climber, getting second at the national championships at the start of this year. And this probably isn't a really good circuit for her, but making the most of that little 1% rise to try to get a gap. And I wonder if she can hold it off, Kate.
Well, I think even though she may not be suited to the sprint at the final, if they can open a gap, then it's absolutely a different game. And we have seen her hold some gaps, some substantial gaps in some pretty impressive racing. But Frankie Sewell is very good on the track. She's very fast twitch. She can really drop some watt bombs and accelerate when she needs to. But it is quite a select group already. We have the 3 leaders in the front and 6 or 7 not too far behind as they head up around the Arc de Triomphe. But Carly, this really is a course where dreams and legends are made. In Paris, the finish of the Tour de France, every year, these riders, I'm sure, have all watched their heroes race around here, and now it's their turn.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, one of the most recognizable roads in the world and one of the most iconic in cycling. And I actually remember racing the La Course the first time, and I think there was so much nerves. It felt like as if it was the World Championships. But you just see now that those three riders and the two rock salt ladies, they just got caught, and now it's all come back together as they make their way down the avenue of the Champs-Élysées. So this is the real fast part of the circuit, and probably the only time when they might be able to get a little bit of rest before that final 1 kilometre and a bit of a drag to the finish.
Well, most of the riders are well and truly above their thresholds, and so they're certainly on a bit of a fine edge limit here, and one attack can certainly break anybody. Jenny Petton and Carly, she's on really good form at the moment.
Yeah, she actually just won our Aero Army Win TT series that concluded last night. Overall, she won the final race and she won overall as well. So she's definitely one of the most consistent racers in Zwift coming out of Australia and being involved in a lot of our pro-ams, and actually was one that I had marked to probably win tonight. I think she's definitely going to be one of the favourites.
Well, we've got a front group of 9. Interestingly, Stephanie Corset has not made that selection, which surprises me, but it just goes to show that the selection is in many ways made before they even cross that start-finish line. They're 6.7 kilometres in. We have just over 10 kilometres in total, so they've got about 4 kilometres left to race. And Carly, at what point do you think the posturing for that sprint finale will finish? Because I think that little 7% kicker as they go under the road might be a perfect opportunity for a late attack for riders like Barrow, who don't necessarily back themselves in a sprint.
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting to see what power-ups those riders got when they crossed the start-finish line the previous lap, and if any saved it, and is going to use it to launch an attack or use it for the sprint. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And yeah, we've also seen some really strong sprinters in this front group. Reznikov here hasn't really lost a sprint in the last couple of weeks, so she must be one the others are eyeing off as they start heading towards the finish line. So maybe we might see some of those late attacks that you mentioned, Kate.
Well, late attacks, it's always a little bit sneaky. When you're on Zwift, it's the perfect way to launch an attack, Carly, because they can't actually see your body language. When you're out on the road, you can give a little bit away, but it's just sheer horsepower here. It will be interesting when we find out what their power-ups are and how they're going to use them, because, of course, they don't all have the same one, and they will have different moments where they do that. Frankie Saul, again, she's been an incredibly high performer at the Junior World Championships on the track in particular. And I think that she might be a bit of a sneaky dark horse, Carly, if it comes down to a bunch sprint, a bunch of 9, albeit.
Yeah, it's good for Justine Barrow to have a teammate up there in that front group. And I don't know if they're talking to each other on any platforms and having any team tactics, but yeah, I think Frankie will also be one to watch. And also Fran Van Burst, she's one of the riders from the Aussie Hump Day ladies and does a lot for the community in many rides and many aspects, and does have a fast finish on her as well. So if Rendikoff just plays it too calm and thinks she's going to win, maybe it's not going to go all her way. So definitely going to be still in a very exciting finish as they come up to around 1.5K to go.
So they've just passed through that little pinch up to 7%, and that certainly hurts the legs. The ladies will be up and out of their seats preparing for this sprint finish. The gaps are starting to open up a little bit, which means there is no free ride for any of the riders out there. Riding anywhere from 4 to 6.5 watts per kilo at the moment. That is working hard. We're not in full sprint mode yet, but certainly they are starting to creep up there. Again, up to 15 watts per kilo these riders are doing in the final sprint. And Carly, it's a bit of cat and mouse now.
Yeah, now we're in that final kilometre, and I just saw Justine Barrow's heart rate was around 180, 100 or plus beats per minute. So they're definitely almost full gas at the moment. And now it's a question of who's got the power up, who's got the aero, and who's got the power to sprint to the line.
Well, Reznikov certainly has the ability to take a long sprint. She's got an exceptional 30-second and 1 minute power, averaging up around the 8 watts per kilo for that 1 minute. And the finish line is just ahead, and the riders, and we've seen the first move using an aero boost. That is a smart move as she came off the wheel, popped off. But watch Reznikov accelerate around the outside. She is putting the power down through the pedals, and Reznikov is pulling away from the field. And we have a winner. Reznikov, what a fantastic ride. Frankie Sewell, well, she was sneaking up there toward the end, but she left her run a little bit too late. And it was Reznikov who took that first race of tonight and the 20 points. She will have to recover from that. Carly, her lungs and her legs will be burning.
Yeah, she was a favourite, and she sprinted home she had a pretty big gap on second and third, but definitely an awesome finish by Frankie as well. And Fran Van Burst, I think, was quite up there too. So awesome seeing so many of the Live ambassadors as we just see this replay of the sprint now when Reznikov really makes her move and opens up that big gap in those final 100 metres.
That burst of acceleration from Reznikov, seriously impressive. The riders, well, they were absolutely lost as to how to reply. But Frankie Sewell, she did make a very good late run. She left it a little bit too late though, Carly. And I think that perhaps there's a lesson learned for race number 2 tonight, that a Reznikov, whoa, she's very hard to beat. Goodness me, not only did she have an incredible acceleration, but she managed to hold it as well. Very impressive as well from Frankie Sewell.
Yeah, and Reznikov does ride for 2020, so it's a team that does do a lot of the Zwift races, and she knows the next course quite well as well. So I think her experience paid off there and was a very impressive finish. And yeah, awesome seeing so many of the Live ambassadors too right up there. I think Rotsalt Attacker actually had 3 riders in that front group. So a really good first race by that team as well, and be interesting to see how this 10-minute or short recovery period goes until the next race.
Yeah, it's not a lot of recovery, is it? In the meantime, let's go to the last 100 metres of the men's race as they are fighting it out there as well tonight. 800 metres, sorry. So here is the men's. This is a replay. Inside the final kilometre, we certainly saw, Carly, with the women, that there was a big acceleration in that sprint. This is a much bigger bunch for sprinting in the men's. And they're yet
and we're seeing a few of those
onto the Champs-Élysées.
Yeah, Trekkie Johnson, he actually won the Melbourne to Warrnambool last year, and a very regular Swifter. And it looks like Kieran Lewis as well from our very own Australian Swift team is right up in that front group, that a lot bigger group sprinting to the line than we saw in the women, with about 30 riders by the looks of it. But it's going to be interesting to see which power-ups are going to be used, as they were used quite earlier on with those drafting power-ups and the featherweights to open up the sprint.
Certainly the featherweight being used to open up that sprint and accelerate, but they are neck to neck, shoulder to shoulder, and the acceleration coming through from Lindsay. Oh, but it is an absolute fight to the line for Peterson, the Danish rider, as they muscle over the top. Oh, it's almost a photo finish for these guys, but he pulls away just as they cross the finish line for Thomason. Fabulous sprint for the men too, Carly. Gee, those accelerations aided by the power-ups really do make a difference. And we noticed in the men that they use the power-ups a lot earlier than in the women's race. So they opened the sprint up a lot earlier. It was a much bigger bunch. But we'll get the results up in a second and we'll take a look at that. But what a way to start this series. The women and the men, very hard fought sprints at the finish.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, I think it's a pretty awesome way to start the series on the Champs-Elysees, probably the most watched race and the most iconic race that you can get. So, yeah, it was pretty exciting as we about to see, I guess, the results on screen to show exactly what happened in each grade.
Yeah, so we will go to the men's race, and Nicholas Pedersen, the Dane, he took the first spot over Jason Thomason, Sam Lindsay in third, Kieran Lewis fourth, Christo Ball fifth, Daniel Sywek in sixth, Jaron Walker seventh, David Kelly in eighth, Brian Duffy Jr., and then Brendan Johnson rounding out that top 10. Only 2 seconds between first and 10th. And in the women's, it's saying Stephanie Corset. Sorry, this is the B category for the men's. Stephanie Corset, we've got Nick Owen, Patrick Gordon, B Ken, Tom Reed, T-Rex, that's a great name, Brian Smith, James Thomas, Johan Valadens, and Damien Hassan. And next up in the C grade for the men, we have Sonny Volders taking the win ahead of Nicholas Dennis, Oscar Van Vies, Chris Bremer, Masaru Nakagawa, Stephen Nowicki, Ryan McKenzie, Mark F., Nick Kiotos, and then Gordon Bradford rolling out that top 10. And in the D category for men, we have Ryan Looker who took the win there. Jay Cat was in second, Dionstan Oliveira in third, Matthew Keys took out fourth, Mick Sweeney, Rob Reynaldi in sixth, Harvey Toe, Lance Willey in eighth, Dan Oldman in ninth, and Phil Freeman rounding out that top 10 in the men's D. So a great race across the board. And now for the women in the A category, Antonina Reznikov. Gee, what a fabulous sprint that was from her. Fran Bambus was in second. Frankie Sewell in third. Courtney Sherwell in fourth. Justine Barrow took fifth. Cassia Boglio in sixth. Jenny Pettinan, seventh. Kim Garland in eighth. Eleanor Barnett in ninth. And Melanie Bennett in 10th. And in the B category for the women, we had Margot Jaquette in first, Leslie West, second, Selena Shake rounding out that podium, Susan Vertigal in fourth, Sarah Grove taking fifth, Erin Bertram in sixth, Josie Simpson in seventh, V. O'Connell in eighth, Fancy Nancy, love that one, in ninth, and Jess Lindstrom in 10th. And in the women's C category, we've got Grace Fang. We've got Andreanan Coate in second, Priscilla Brown in third, Mazza Lovegrove in fourth, Tam Kite in fifth, Wendy Chow in sixth, Lam Kong in seventh, R. Hay in eighth, Emma Gribben in ninth, and rounding out the top 10, we have Kath Millen. And finishing up with the D for the women, Montana Collier took the win there. Mayumi Kobayashi in second, Nicole Slater in third, S. Takats in fourth, Rock Jedi, another fabulous name, in fifth, Camila Sanchez in sixth, Virginia Riches in seventh, Marianne Lee in eighth, NS for ninth, and Katie Hammond rounding out that top 10. So, Carly, goodness me, what an incredible start to this Crit Crusher series. They've only got about 10 minutes to rest and recover. I can imagine that their legs and their lungs are, well, they're still burning. I mean, it's kind of time to take a breath, to have a drink, and, well, we've got to get out there and do it again.
Yeah, it's funny. You find that a 10-minute race can feel like for so long, but 10 minutes recovery goes so fast. So I think that 10 minutes is going to go really fast for these athletes, and pretty much it's just enough time to grab a drink and try to towel down, and then all of a sudden you're about a couple minutes away from race 2. So almost like the Omnium on the track, or not a point score, but something very similar.
Effort, rest, see if you can survive. Well, some of the warriors and the more experienced riders, this is where they might come to the fore, actually, the recovery between. Let's see if we can have a chat to Peter Mullins. We saw her on the live stream earlier to see what tips and tricks she's doing. Peter, how are you going? How are you finding it out there? That was a pretty crazy way to start, hey?
I was just thinking I'm glad they only showed top 10 in B grade. Because I think I was lucky to finish top 70 out of the 150 women.
Well, I mean, just how tough is it when they start accelerating in that sprint, Peter? Because some big gaps opened up pretty quickly, but gee, some power was going through the pedals.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me is actually the start of it all. I'm used to sort of starting at the back of a race and warming into it. So Zwift has been a bit of an eye-opener there, and I'm yet to find my legs, I'll say.
Yes, I think certainly Carly was watching on at the sprinting, never something that she loved in particular, but I think that she probably has a little bit more insight into how to sprint in the Zwift world. Peter, a lot of these riders are just doing incredible watts per kilo. How do you prepare for that on the trainer? Are you doing more trainer preparation or more on the road for this?
Yeah, a lot on the trainer, actually. I did nearly 3 hours this morning. I'm actually really enjoying Zwift. I recently got a kicker bike that my 4-year-old niece has been sitting on the second kicker bike next to me. And I just enjoy the experience, actually. I like watching the live streams and watching. We had 3 girls in the top 5 then for Rock Salt Attacker. And I enjoy kind of watching them race. So I think I still feel like I can be part of something and the racing scene, even if I'm not competitive at it.
And how much are the tactics playing into this? And this is, you've only got a little bit until the next race starts, so.
Yeah, I think, I've got 2 minutes 40 because I'm in B grade, lucky me. But I think you can tell the experienced Zwifters in a seat at these Zwift races.
Yeah, well, the commentary booth might be a little bit lonely once Carly gets out there herself. Peter, thank you so much. Good luck for this next one. It's only 12K, including the lead-in. You can do this.
I'll make it happen.
Excellent. Great to hear. Good luck. Oh, Carly, they're missing you out there.
I always love Peter pre-race. She's always max rider before the start. I think the national championship she actually won. I saw her eating a pastry before the start in casual clothes as we were all like warming up, going up the bottom slopes of Mount Buninyong, and she ends up winning it. So definitely her tactic normally works. So for her anyway, for me, it went off. But awesome to see her part of it.
Good preparation to me. All right, well, we're heading down to the start pen now. The riders have just rolled out. We have a 3 kilometre lead in here for race 2, 9.3 kilometres once they are up and running. There will be a few tired legs, so it might not be quite as horse out of a gate for this one. And they're on the Seaside Sprint course. So nice and flat, another one for the sprinters again. But Justine Barrow made such a difference in that lead-in in the last race that I think they'll all have their eyes very wide open as to the potential tactics.
Yeah, and you can see we're only 700 metres in and already it has split up quite significantly and there has been that front group form. So there are some tired legs out there, but all of those races that were in that front group in race 1 look like as if they've made this split for race 2. And there are a few little S's and undulating sections of this course as well, which might be good launching pads for riders like Bree Wilson and Nave Bradbury and also Justine Barrow in this part. So this is the little section that would lead them into this final sprint and the one opportunity again for them to suss out that lead-in for the final sprint that they would have to do for this next lap.
And they are quite strung out already. 1 or 2% gradient increase can actually make quite a big difference. A lot of the riders will notice that if they hesitate for even a second, that can make a critical difference. There isn't a lot of elevation on this course all around. It's only 39 metres in total, but when it does tick up to the 4, 5, 7% mark, it certainly burns the legs a little bit. It is interesting to see. Will be interesting to see whether Reznikov is forced to take a bit more responsibility for the pace after that dominant sprint. We're already seeing a power up being used in the drafting, whether that indicates that she's in a little bit of trouble already. A couple of our riders are using that, and you can see they're going through these rollers. These really do burn the legs, Carly, don't they?
Yeah, and you can see those that are really experienced Swifters. They cross the line, they would have got a power up, and they know that another line is coming up, another opportunity to get another power up. So those that have a power up that they don't really want, this is their opportunity to kind of get rid of that and hopefully get one that they think is more useful for the sprint, which is why you're seeing the featherweight and the drafting power ups, I think, probably being used. But it looks like Bree Wilson is actually using that featherweight power up to get a gap and try to hurt the legs on those other riders in this front group.
Well, Bree Wilson is certainly a rider to watch. She was 14th in race 1. So she might get a little bit of scope to go off the front here and not be too much danger in the overall. But Reznikov and Barrow, they are in hot pursuit. Reznikov, she obviously has very good legs and sees no reason to let anything go. So this week, we are so pleased to be bringing you the women's race 1 and race 2 from the Giant Crit Crusher series. Next week, we will be focusing on the men, week 3 on the women, and week 4 on the men. It sounds pretty equitable, doesn't it, Carly? I love it. So it's great to see the women
it's
out
awesome
there
being able to
racing.
see.
And
Yeah, and I think in this front group, we have almost all of the Rock Salt Attacker girls have made this front split. So it's definitely, they've got the numbers in this group, and it will be interesting to see if they play that to their advantage and try to really make Reznikov work and almost kill a bit of that final sprint that she might have in this next race.
So team tactics, let's talk about those, because Reznikov is outnumbered. Rock Salt Attacker have 4 or 5 riders in that front group. Reznikov is without a teammate. So Carly, the first thing that I would be doing as a Rock Salt team is taking turns to attack and making Reznikov chase, because if she has to continue chasing on her own, that will certainly take a lot of power out of her legs.
Yeah, for sure, especially if the riders that they're working for, if they don't think they've got the sprint to beat them, you're going to be wanting to use those the power-ups or hope that you do have an aero power-up. That is the best one to have coming into a sprint, and we don't know what the riders got when they crossed that sprint line just earlier, but maybe some were lucky enough to get one of those, which would really help them in this final part. But it was pretty impressive though by Frankie Schuhl in race 1, and maybe they might end up trying to set her up for the sprint if no one can get away in these next couple of kilometres before the lead into it.
Well, Frankie's definitely a pocket rocket. Reznikov and Bambus, they both sprinted at over 600 watts in that final. But Frankie Sewell, she was sprinting at 440 watts. Now, that's quite a big difference, but we could see how much she was accelerating. She is a little pocket rocket. And when you get the right wheel and can accelerate at that perfect time off it, she got the timing a little bit wrong in the last one, left the run a little bit too late, but she has an opportunity to learn that lesson here. Fran Bambus, she certainly has a very big burst of speed at the finish, and it looks to me like they're being a bit conservative. This chase group, Stephanie Course, that we discussed her earlier, she sprints at over 15 watts per kilo. In the final, she's also another little pocket rocket. They're only 9 or 10 seconds back. So if that front group continues to hesitate as they have been doing, well, this 5 might come back and we might get a bit of a surprise move from these riders. Hopefully they're able to work consistently without burning too much energy. But at the front, it doesn't look like they're working too hard. They're looking at each other a little bit, Carly.
Yeah, this is another little rise on course, and it pops up to about 5%, 6%. And it doesn't look like anyone's really tried to make a move there. I thought, as saying that, Justine Barrow just makes a bit of a surge of pace. But I wouldn't say it was an all out attack, but maybe actually I'm wrong here because it does look like as if it's opened up as I was just saying that. So clearly she's listening to our live stream and wanting to prove her fitness and show her strength on those rides.
Well, go Justine, go. I say by the numbers that she's putting out, over 5 watts per kilo very consistently, she's certainly got the legs, but it is a tough course. Even as they go through a few little undulations around the volcano here, it's not really the kind of course that suits Justine Barrow. Maybe if we race up to Wes, she'll come to her own. But now these groups are reforming from those little moves at the front. 3%, 4%, these little rises do take an awful lot out of the legs. And once one of those little gaps open up, it is like an elastic band. Finally, it does snap if you don't get back. So the pace is on a bit more after Justine Barrow strung it out. Jenny Pettinan, she's coming back on. Well, we know she's a good time trialist, so it makes sense that she was able to get back onto that group. And Emma Nichols as well. And as they come toward these final couple of kilometres, it's 12, just over 12 kilometres in total with that 3K lead in and the 9.4 kilometre lap. It's a bit longer than the other one, Carly. So they have a bit more opportunity to actually posture. And this bunch is significantly bigger than the 9 that came to the finish on the Champs-Élysées.
Yeah, I think probably the short leading to then the next race, it gave more people an opportunity to maybe be up closer to the start line or the virtual start line in the gate. But it is a bit bigger group, and we saw that move by Justine Barrow has definitely blown out the gap between this front group and the chasing group. So I don't think that chasing group has really a chance to get back on now as it's down, it's blowing out to around 28 seconds. So at least we know, Justine knows that it's going to be against the riders that are in that front group. And yeah, I think Rotsa Otaka are in a really strong position having so many riders up there.
Well, we've got what does look like our final selection. We've got 12 riders up the front there. And although it might look like they're not working too hard, they are suffering. They are riding 42 kilometres an hour. That is absolutely ticking along on the dead flat roads around Watopia. Fran Bambus, now she is absolutely one to watch, Carly. She's just sitting in the back, tucked in, really looking after herself. That is absolutely the mark of a smart sprinter. Her face hasn't touched the wind yet, which is fabulous. She is the most powerful sprinter out there. So she just needs to keep those legs fresh. But we have an attack now from Sherwell. Our first really solid attack, and the gap is definitely opening up. Frankie Sewell in hot pursuit, but those gaps are opening up. Sherwell and Sewell would be excellent breakaway compatriots, but they do need to work together.
Yeah, they're both teammates on Rotsalt Attacker. So this is the first move by the team trying to split it up leading into the finish. And to have two Rotsalt teammates with that bit of a gap, it really forced Reznikov there to close it. And this is where we might see a counterattack. And it does. It looks like Justine Barrow has made her way to the front. So they're really trying to work over Reznikov and tire her out leading into the sprint. Courtney Schuh again moving to the front and dropping her power up, the drafting power up.
Certainly Rock Salt Attacker are taking a bit of commanding lead, and Reznikov, she is outnumbered, but she does have the most horsepower amongst that group if it does come down to a final sprint. But this is a good gap that has opened up, and it does look like they are gone. I'm not sure that this will come back. 5-6 seconds makes quite a difference, especially when they're clipping along at close to 50 kilometres an hour. Justine Barrow and Frankie Sewell, well, they're quite comfortable up there. They're just holding good wheels. Justine Barrow has had a few attacks as they go up the little pinches here. We can expect to see that again, and Bree Wilson tucked in quite nicely there.
Yeah, this is the final pinch actually, and then it descends to the sprint. So about a kilometre left of the bike race. So definitely, I think it's going to be a sprint against these 5 riders, as the gap's around 3 seconds to that next group, and I don't think they're going to have enough time to bring it back. But Justine Barry now leading into that bridge and leading the group into this sprint as they're about to start opening up this final.
Well, Reznikov certainly knows how to float the pack, and she is doing exceptionally well sitting in there. Outnumbered she may be, but the posturing has absolutely begun as they start to accelerate, heading up towards 60 kilometres an hour. And it's Reznikov that is, Reznikov, she takes it over the line there, quite commanding. Bree Wilson in second, Frankie Sewell in third again. What a great ride from the youngster. But Reznikov, goodness me, what a commanding ride, Carly. She's really, really showing that she has a lot of form at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. We heard just before broadcast that she hasn't lost a sprint in the last couple of weeks, and she's showing why that's the case at the moment. But really good showing and good results from Rotso Attacker as well. We saw Justine Barrow leading out the sprint with the drafting power up in use, trying to get to the line first, but I think just didn't have that sprinting power to hold off Reznikov. But a really good finish by Bree Wilson and Frankie Sewell as well.
And a very good acceleration from Reznikov. But some really excellent teamwork from the Rock Salt Attacker. Carly, they're your team. Do you feel like you're kind of out there with them at the moment?
Yeah, I almost feel like as if I'm the DS, but they just can't hear me. So I'm just looking over, seeing their racing tactics, and we'll definitely give them feedback. But I think I've got the easier job for today to watch the action as opposed to being involved in it. But you might see me on the other side and in game next week.
Oh, well, I look forward to that. That'll be fantastic. Now let's take a quick look at what happened in the men's race. Of course, we've got the last kilometre on replay here, so let's take a look at what played out. They had a big bunch sprint won by the Danish rider in that first race. And Carly, once again, a much bigger bunch in the men's, but they're also posturing for a sprint finish as they come into this descent. Quite a lot of speed, but it's once they hit that bridge that it gets serious.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot faster finish, and the slight uphill drag that they experienced on the Champs-Élysées, and a lot of the big names that were in that first race and right up there. I saw Kieran Lewis as well, who finished just off the podium in the first race right up there too. So a bit bigger group, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this final plays out for the men's A grade.
Well, certainly, once again, they are all readying for that sprint. This little pinch up certainly burns the legs at 7%. We can see the bunch going from a blob into a little bit more of a strung out line. They can see the finish. They can see that bridge. They know it's not too far away. Kieran Lewis is certainly doing a good job at the front, but it's Pelican who has moved to the front. A bit of an attack as they descend down. Gee, he is moving. The bunch is going to have quite a job having to chase him down. Over 65 kilometres an hour now.
Yeah, now you can see all the power-ups being dropped, the drafting, the lightweights, whatever you've got, you're dropping that to try to help you get to the line as fast as possible. Pedersen looking like as if he's making a move on the outside, using the aero power-up. And Carter over the top of him. And it's looking like Carter is the one that takes out race 2.
Impressive sprint from Carter, because Pedersen, well, he had a brilliant sprint on the Champs-Élysées, but as you point out, it's certainly a different kind of sprint, a slight uphill versus this downhill. So Carter taking the win in race 2 for the men, with Kelly followed up by Pedersen. So we'll go and take a look at all of the results from the men's and the women's. But what a sensational start it's been so far. And, I've been pleased to watch all of this sprint action unfold. We've got a few different courses coming up in the next week. So, Carly, it's great to give the sprinters the first go.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about also having fun. And it's great to see we saw around 1,000 signed up for the men's race tonight, and over 200 women. And that's what it's all about, kind of just having fun and staying motivated during this time when I guess a lot of us are missing that in real life racing, and we can get that little bug and racing aspect on Zwift.
Oh, it's been sensational to get everybody up and moving. So we've got the women's results for the A grade. Once again, it goes to Reznikov, who will win overall. Frankie Sewell snuck into second. Brie Wilson in third. Courtney Sherwell in fourth. Justine Barrow in fifth. Fran Bambust in sixth. Elma Nichols in seventh. Kim Garland in eighth. Nev Bradbury in ninth. And Jenny Pettinan in 10th. And for the B class, we've got Sarah Grove was the winner, V. O'Connell in second, Margot Jaquette in third, Fancy Nancy in fourth, Selena Shake in fifth, Heidi Hunt in sixth, Erin Bertram seventh, Susan Vertigal in eighth, Josie Simpson in ninth, and Hannah Vine in 10th. And the C grade have not finished yet, the women's C grade. They are still sprinting it out. Oh, here we go. We've got the results. They've just crossed the line. Hot off the press. Grace Fang taking the win there ahead of Anna Johnston. Mazza Lovegrove. Emma Gribben in fourth. Laura Richards in fifth. Andre Ann Cott in sixth. Tam Kite in seventh. Rachel Hoare in eighth. Mackenzie Scott in ninth. And Kath Millen in 10th. And now we will head to the men's results because the women D are still sprinting it out on course. So we have Daryl Carter was the winner for the A men ahead of David Kelly, Nicholas Pedersen in third, Brendan Johnson in fourth, James Cunningham in fifth, Kieran Lewis in sixth, Jason Thomason in seventh, Sam Lindsay in eighth, Jaron Walker in ninth, and Christo Ball in 10th. And for the B grade, we've got Stephanie Corset winning, Sue Toshiaki in second, Damien Hassan in third, B. Ken in fourth, Nick Owen in fifth, Tom Reed in sixth, Paddy Quiggin in seventh, Alex Kalaho in eighth, Chris Codgen in ninth, and John Folkes in 10th. And for the men's C, we have Nick Kiotos taking out the win ahead of Daniel Kennedy and Jason Pushy. In fourth, Jason Dennis, fifth, Nicholas Dennis, sixth, Sonny Volders, seventh, Jeffrey Schultz, eighth, Chris Bremer, ninth, Andrew Bain, and in 10th, we have Masaru Nakagawa. And for the men's D, we have the winner there, JCat, Kentaro Miyaru in second, Koichi Nakai in third, Matt Pekuich in fourth, Mark Geary in fifth, Rob Rinaldi in sixth, Alan Rankin in seventh, Harvey Toe in eighth, Scott Dowling in ninth, and rounding out the top 10, we have Andrew Nicholson. So we are absolutely sensational racing so far in the Giant Crushers series. Carly, I just thought that racing was absolutely sensational, but it's easy for us to sit here and say it looked pretty difficult. Let's see if we can get Peter Mullins back and she can talk us through exactly how difficult it was. Maybe we'll be able to see her patting her brow. Peter, goodness me, that was entertaining. How was it for you?
That was awesome. We had 4 girls in that lead group of 5, and I suppose in a real life race, Carly and I would both be disappointed in that, but it's awesome to see the girls giving it a crack. As soon as they finished, they got off and gave me kudos, and I still had 2 kilometres to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's been sensational watching the sprinters really battle it out. Rock Salt doesn't necessarily have a big sprinter, but you've got a sprinter in training in Frankie Sewell. She's impressive. She had 2 very impressive races tonight with a third and a second. Is that a surprise, or do you know how talented she is? I think we've seen her junior career has come a long way.
Yeah, we picked her and Neve Bradbury up at after Nationals last year. And it was actually the only race I'd ever seen them race because I don't really follow the junior calendar a lot. And we haven't had an opportunity to race together a lot this year, but just from the interactions I've had with her, she is extremely professional on and off the bike. And I can't, well, hopefully this year I get to do some racing with her, but can't wait to race with her in real life.
And I want to know about the sprints, Peter. It seems to us that they're leaving the sprinting quite late, heading toward the line. Do you think that comes from a little bit of cat and mouse nervousness, or is that a bit of a quirk of sprinting in Zwift versus sprinting on the road?
Yeah, I mean, on the road, I like to lead out a sprint. I think it's better to be out the front dying than out the back flying. But I think Zwift is a real knack. I haven't nailed it yet, but I am picking up a little bit from the girls who are racing, and just enjoying having something to look forward to on the racing scene at the moment. So thank you, Zwift.
Well, I very much like that. Off the front dying rather than out the back flying. I might steal that one off you. Peter, what do you take away from this week, and how do you prepare for next week?
I think I'll have more of a warm-up. It's actually my first ever babysitting stint, so this is kind of been a clash, but I've just promised the kids ice cream, so they're kind of tagging at my leg ready to get off. But no, I'll probably have the same approach. Like I said, I am certainly not here to win a B-grade race, but just enjoy being part of it, and thanks to Living Giant for bringing us the series.
Well, I know it can be a little bit distracting when you've got little ones munching at your feet. So
you would know.
But, awesome job, and you're doing well. Promising ice cream. You're on the right track there. So you're getting that right.
Good auntie.
Peter, thank you so much, and excellent auntie skills. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, Carly, she's just a bit of a legend, isn't she? She struggles a little bit in the Zwift sprint, she said, but the experience she has will certainly carry the team a long way.
Yeah, for sure. I think she's such a strong racer, and it's awesome that I'll be teammates with her again coming up. So it's great to just see all of the team supporting it, and I'm sure that although she might not have been in the same race, her tactics and advice for the riders would have helped them and how they did so well tonight. So yeah, she's a trooper jumping on the stream, especially when she was babysitting.
Yes, multitasking at its absolute best. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in and joining Carly and I tonight. And thank you for supporting the Giant Crit Crushers Crit series. And look, we've got 3 more weeks ahead of us. So same time, same place next Wednesday. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for joining us.